Hello everybody and welcome back to Dres, where we continue where we left off from my last episode of the Gargantua series. So here we are back with the Drezzr, which is basically my ground base moving around across the surface, and we are looking if everything is working. The big rover wheels are spinning. The service bay has opened and revealed some science equipment and also the solar panels. The crew is happy in its capsules. We have 6 Kerbals on board and a great view out of the cockpit. This is the command center that controls this mighty land vehicle. Or planet vehicle. Whatever! Anyway, we are now making our way to our destination, because yeah, we have something to do, and it appears we're getting some hang time over some of those bigger bumps. Okay, I've skipped ahead, and you can see in the background that purple dot or pink dot. I'm not good with colors. Anyway, you can see in the background against the galaxy the Gargantua coming ahead towards us high above in space. So basically we're going to make a pass with our mothership and... ooh. Okay, we also make some neat rover tricks. Okay, nothing broken. Perfect. Great job of piloting young Kerbal thingy inside the cockpit. Okay, as I mentioned before, we're going to pass underneath Gargantua. There we go, it's now coming over us. You see there in the map view? Okay, here it is. Just wave to your brothers and sisters, or maybe not blood relatives, I don't know. How do Kerbals procreate? I have no idea. Maybe they're hatched from eggs or grown on plants. But that is irrelevant, because we're now having the perfect segue towards our main mothership, the Gargantua itself, where we close up the cargo bays, which is completely pointless since my method of closing them, which is just closing them half, in the game does not have any effect. And as some of you have speculated, I'm going asteroid hunting. I've already scanned for some of those big chunks of rock in orbit around Dres, and we have found an E-class asteroid. So first we're going to get in the same plane as that thing is, and once we've done that and done our maneuver node, we're going to blast over it. But first let's get back to the Drezzr and see where it is going. And we have an obstacle. Well, sort of, it's just a crater. But I'm not really keen on getting down there and back up on the other side, so I'm going to try to drive around on the side of the crater. Let's see how that works out. Once again, this rover is a bit faster than I expected. I'm hitting speeds of about 20 meters per second or something across the surface. And I'm skipping ahead through parts of this journey because, as many of you may know, roving around some of the planets or moons in Kerbal Space Program is really tedious work. So we're now way ahead on the side of the crater. Once again, a nice jump there. I'm not sure if those astronauts that had the moon rover performed any of those stunts I'm pulling here with that thing. Also keep in mind that that moon rover was way smaller than this big thing here. You can see our progress. We're already 3/4 through the crater. And now we have finished it. Okay, and you can already see in the back where we're heading, if you are familiar with Dres, of course. So yes, whoa, nice jump over there. Okay, we're coming in a little bit. Oops. Power slide on the planet Dres. Okay, let's take a break a bit and check up on Gargantua, which is already performing her first maneuver node to get a rendezvous with that asteroid. So, as I mentioned before, we have to first change our plane. And once we've done that, there we go. Looks promising. Once we've done that, we have to set up another maneuver node so we can get closer to that thing. I'm going to perform some two burns, basically. First I'm going to increase my orbit, and then I'm going to get the encounter. Because, well, since Gargantua is the big beast that it is, I figured that if I already have a wider orbit, or a higher apoapse for that matter, that it would be easier to get an... well, that it would be easier in that regard that I don't have to have that long of burn time. So yeah, we got the encounter and we are back with the Drezzr. And the Drezzr has arrived at its destination. Its destination being, of course, the Big Canyon, the landmark of Dres. That wonderful natural formation inside the equator rocks. Okay, we have exited our crew compartment through that wonderful tunnel. And now we're heading to the front. Many of you have wondered what's inside. Some keen-eyed viewers have thought it is an ion probe. Well, not really. There is some ion thingy going on, but you need some people to really Kerbals to really appreciate what this thing can do. Okay, let's get this down there. There we go. And Billy Bobsy Kerman is now heading there and getting on board. This is the Drezzr Mini, or whatever it's called, I really don't remember. And it has not some huge batteries, but some fuel tanks and one of the big fuel cells, so that it can perform enough electricity output for those two ion engines, which are basically just keeping it afloat. So this thing is for maneuvering across difficult terrain on Dres. And since it is a two-seater, we of course get on board another Kerbal. So in order to do that, there she is, Matey Kerman. Hi there. Come on. Okay, there we go. So, and in order to welcome her, we of course open the doors for her. Be a gentleman, even in space. Okay, let's close that up and head into the canyon, into the belly of the beast, so to speak. Well, we just came out of the belly of another beast, but that's an entirely different matter. So let's fire up the main engine to propel us even quicker across the surface. Boom! Okay, well, a view outside of the cockpit not really possible without some camera mods, which I don't have. But yeah, let's get across there. So, this is a bit, well, not really boring, but I imagined it a lot more cooler than I imagined it in my mind, but it is still the entrance of the canyon. Okay, I have to be careful with my direction changes, because if I perform them too fast, I'm going to end up in one of the walls of the canyon. So basically this is a rocket floating across some ion padding. You could compare those to some of those repulsor engines in one of the science fiction series, or maybe Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever, that keep, well, vehicles just floating in the air without any rocket fire visible or something. And we are already inside the depths of the canyon. Well, since we're here, let's try to get down there and see what's going on. Let's try to land this thing. Fired the thruster in retrograde. Okay. I have to keep in mind to control the back engine with the action group I have enabled for it, and not by using the throttle, because if I use just the throttle, there we go, we have landed. If I just use the throttle, then also the ion engine's cut out. Yay! Opening the doors, and our scientist Billy Bobsy Kerman surveys that magnificent crater canyon thingy. Okay, enough surveying, let's get back on board. There we go, closing up the doors. I'll spare you the entire science thing. And let's head to the exit of the canyon in the back over there, to the western part of it. You could imagine some dramatic music now while we perform our flight through the canyon. Getting a little bit quicker now. Okay, I'm not really convinced that this trajectory will keep us alive in here, so yeah, let's fire this engine and let's see what happens. But I think we're going to be fine. And we're already almost out of the canyon. So basically, yes, we have survived. And well, we, Billy Bobsy and Matey Kerman, Matty, whatever. And some time acceleration to get this over with a little bit quicker. So, yes, we have performed a canyon fly-through. There we go. Okay, now, time to get back. Spin that thing around. Boom. And let's get back to base. Mobile base, that is. Okay, get down there. We don't want to fly across the canyon, we once again want to fly through the canyon. And funny thing, I went out of fuel for my rear engine, and then I realized the rear engine is not really connected to the fuel tanks up front, so I just transferred some fuel from the front tanks to the rear engine tanks, and bam! We're back in business. And the business is get back to the Drezzr. So once again, time accelerating a bit, correcting my course by tilting it around, which interestingly works. Also, of course, the use of the main engine. Now we're getting really fast. Oh well, time to... Oops. Okay, I think we have to brake a little bit. Okay, wrong direction. And yeah, this is a little bit embarrassing, but for some reason the parts of the video that I recorded from getting where I was before to here were kind of either lost or deleted, or I forgot to click on record. Very sorry about that, but please believe me when I say that I managed to get here safely. But here is not really the destination where we want to be, because we want to be inside of the Drezzr. And in order to do that, we are kind of finicking our way back into the cargo bay, which is, well, a bit harder than I expected, since the Drezzr is on an inclination and gravity pulls us in one direction and we want to go into the other, but we are managing to get up to the docking port and connect it. Turning off those engines and getting out first one and second one. Both crew members are safely outside of that small vehicle. And now we have to get them back inside the Drezzr. Come on, don't fly around. Why did I open that cargo bay? Why do they call them service bays and not cargo bays? I'm not sure, but let's get on board. There we go. Second one. Billy Bobsy. Come on, let's get on board. Big boy. Well, he's not bigger than any other Kerbal, so yeah. I wonder what a society would be like where everybody looks the same and is the same height and weighs the same. Really weird. Okay, let's close up those cargo ramps, extend the solar panels, and now we get back to Gargantua. And here she is performing her maneuver node so we can get closer to the asteroid that we want to mine. This of course just a minor adjustment of less than 100 meters per second of delta V. So this is going quite fast now. Okay, I'm also using 3 times physical time acceleration, so at least something gets done, since the frame rate is really down, and I'm also additionally speeding up this video 4 times in the editing process. And here we are already at our asteroid with a very weird classification. I'm pretty sure there's a system behind that, as is with every stellar thingy in astronomy. But yeah, I don't know it, so yeah, there we go. Okay, once more an adjustment burn to get our velocities matched with the asteroid. And once that is finished, we turn the Gargantua towards it and fire our engines so we can get closer. Of course, I'm just using very low speeds so I don't zip past it or burn off too much fuel. Okay. I'm using Kerbal Engineer, so it shows me the distance to target and also the time to the rendezvous. There we go, look at that! A big roid over there. Almost as big as Gargantua, or probably even bigger. I don't know. If you compress Gargantua to a rock shape, maybe it would be smaller. Probably. Okay. Almost there. Let's do some minor adjustments again and firing the engines. So we get at 0 speed difference, 0 meters per second speed difference between the asteroid and Gargantua. So we're really stable over here. Okay. So, what am I planning? I'm planning to milk that sucker. In order to do that, we have to first align the ship perfectly, and then with the help of our vehicles inside the front cargo base, we attach the ship to the asteroid. First we get the, well, what I call the roid mover. It basically consists of a claw, 2 drills, a lot of RCS fuel, and of course a reaction wheel and batteries. And let's rename this thing to the Drezzr E1. The lens flare effect, by the way, is done by Scatterer. And here is the refinery part. Okay, this part basically just consists of the refinery, some RCS thrusters, a probe core, and a reaction wheel. So the idea is to, if there were a smaller asteroid, that I would just pull it towards the Gargantua with the claw part and attach it to the refinery already attached to Gargantua. But in this case, since the asteroid is huge, we have to do it the other way around. So yeah, some, well, tedious maneuvering with Gargantua is now in order. RCS firing, docking port alignment indicator mod, helping me out again. Would be a real chore without it. I'm controlling the ship from the dorsal docking port, so the docking port on the belly of the beast, so to speak. And here we are almost at the dock. And close, yes. Okay, we are now attached to the asteroid, so basically we can now turn this thing into delicious fuel for our future mission targets. Yes, as I have mentioned before, Gargantua still has something to do, and it is not hanging around at Dres and getting back to Kerbin. Oh no. If you remember in, I think, the second episode, I put a small lander inside the cargo bay. So yeah, if you remember that, then you will probably remember that there is something that this lander can do. So once we have finished, we can get out of that docking arrangement, and curiously, we're leaving this thing behind. So, maybe we will come back, or maybe another ship will arrive and take, well, advantage of this little refinery. But until the next episode, thanks for watching, goodbye.